Hi guys, welcome back to Movie Chat and More, and if you're here for the very first time, welcome. My name is Richard, and today I want to talk a little bit about horror and what scares us and what doesn't, and how we're all different, really, as when it comes to that particular subject. Uh, what scares me when it comes to horror movies? Not much anymore. Not much. They're still scary movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And I'm not going to say Nightmare on Elm Street because Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah, I like Freddy, I like the franchise, but for me, Freddy never really scared me. Jason from Friday the 13th, well, the Friday the 13th sequels, never really scared me, but Michael Myers from Halloween did. When I was a kid, and I watch some of those movies now, and I'm not as spooked out as I was, and when I watched him when I was a kid. No, I mean that kind of scared spookiness, no, doesn't happen anymore. I can still watch Halloween 1978 and think, yeah, that's a spooky moment, but it doesn't necessarily spook me out anymore. So I started to think, and this is just a rant video, guys. If you've seen the title to this video, it's just a rant, a ramble. Somebody asked me, well, no, somebody told me recently, because I asked someone, and if you're watching this, you know who you are. Is there anything I could do to improve my videos? What could I do? And this guy turned around, you're probably watching, hopefully you are, you better be. But he said, you take a long time to get to the point. Well, if you're watching this one, and I'm not going to have a point in this video. This is just me shooting the breeze, like a lot of my videos are. But today in particular, I'm making a point of this video is just a rambling rant about horror and what scares us individually and what can scare us collectively. Like John Carpenter once said, we're all scared of the same things. Deep down we are. Loss of loved ones, abandonment. We're all scared of those things, primarily. But when bringing it back to films, I don't know. When was the last time you watched a movie and was genuinely scared? Because there was a film called, it was made in the early 90s or late 80s. It was a horror anthology, like 4 or 5 short horror stories put together. But my favorite scene in that film is the beginning of the movie, which is a story within itself, I guess. It's not one of the particular stories in the film. After Midnight, that's it. And there's a class at the beginning of the film, and they are taking a class in fear, and the lecturer, the professor, he's kind of a weird guy, Kind of reminds me of Chris Sarandon, Jerry Dandridge from the original Fright Night. Can't think of the guy's name, but he was a good actor. And he's doing this class at the beginning, and he's basically, spoiler alerts, in case you haven't seen After Midnight and you plan to. I never hear many people talking about that film. I don't hear anyone talking about that film apart from me. So you probably have no plans to see it, just in case. Yeah, he's doing this lecture, this professor, at the beginning of the movie, and he basically asks the class, "So what frightens you? Dark places, ghosts, and stuff like that." And one cocky little shit suddenly shouts out, flunking this class. And the professor turns round to him and says, "That's the only thing that frightens you." And he says, "Well, that and girls that say no." It's funny, right? He's the jock, But the professor goes on to say, uh, let's say I was to tell all of you that a monster is going to break through that wall, run into this room, rip off all your heads, and you're all going to die. You wouldn't be scared by that. Who would be? Because you know from a lifetime of experience, it's never going to happen. However, if I was to reach into my briefcase here, pull out a gun, and tell you I'm going to blow somebody's brains out, that's something to be scared of. And of course, this cocky little jock near the front is like, yeah, right. And the professor's like, well, that doesn't frighten you? And he says, well, why would I be scared of something that I know you're never going to do? The professor pulls out the gun and literally makes this kid piss his pants in fear, because he puts the gun to his head and there's no bullets in it, obviously, and pulls the trigger. The kid jumps up and he's pissed himself, literally, and he runs out of the room, complains about the professor, and it's a great scene. But I love what the professor says about fear in that scene. The psychology of fear, and it's interesting. It really is interesting, because what he's saying about the monster breaking through the wall and ripping their heads off, yeah, not going to happen. But the fear of that professor shooting somebody, yeah, that's something to be scared of. No matter what the jock says, that's something to be scared of. And he was. When he thought it could happen, yeah, he like the professor tells the rest of the class, he was afraid. Great movie, that After Midnight. And the stories, the short stories in the movie are pretty good as well. Yeah, the psychology of fear. I remember watching Halloween, well, not for the first time, because what was I, 5, 6 years old? I don't remember watching Halloween for the first time, but I do remember Michael Myers scaring the crap out of me. I mean, I got to a point, I may have said this in a previous video, where I couldn't even have, if I was to be, I mean, I had quite a big VHS collection, video cassettes, even when I was a kid. And I had Halloween 4. The Return of Michael Myers, my second favorite in the franchise, on VHS, but I couldn't have the VHS cassette in sight when I went to bed. Like, you line up your VHS or DVDs or Blu-rays now, 4Ks, whatever, you line them up on a shelf. Well, I couldn't have that with Halloween 4, because on the sleeve you could still see the face, the mask of Michael Myers, and it freaked me out. I had about 7 or 8 nightmares when I was a kid about those movies. May not sound a lot, but 7 or 8 nightmares about the same boogeyman, the boogeyman. Yeah, they build up. But I carried on going back and watching these things because I wanted to be scared again. Why? Why do we want to be scared? It's strange. The psychology of fear, fright, it really is weird. And it's interesting, and it always has been. I mean, I remember asking somebody when I was like maybe 14, 15 years old, and I had seen a couple of the Friday the 13th movies, and I was going back and watching the ones that I hadn't seen. Like Friday the 13th Part 3, Part 4, and it took me a while to appreciate those films, but now I realize they're easily, in my humble opinion, the better Jason films. When it got to Part 6, but I'm going off on a tangent. But this is a rambling rant video, so you knew what you were getting into. And yeah, I asked somebody, why do I enjoy watching these films? Because, okay, fair enough, they're not really scaring me, but I know people are being murdered in these movies. Why am I enjoying this? Is there something wrong with me? And yeah, I was told basically it's escapism. Deep down, nobody's being hurt, nobody's being murdered. It's just pure and utter escapism. And that's true. And that's what I say about horror, most horror anyway these days. It's pure and utter escapism from the real world. It's a strange form of escapism. I mean, why watch a Friday the 13th movie when you can watch Dumb and Dumber? apples and oranges, you know? It's just what we like. I love Dumb and Dumber, by the way. I love comedy. And that's the thing, because I'm covered in like horror tattoos, like this is for the Crow, uh, the original Crow, Brandon Lee, sadly passed away whilst making the film. Yeah, this one here, that's a werewolf. I had that one done. Well, yep, this one here. Let's get it in there. Take my arm right here. Scream. I had that done shortly after Wes Craven passed away, in memory of Wes Craven and for the Scream movies. Well, Scream 1 to 3. I think Scream 4 was a pile of trash, but yeah, yeah. So, yeah, what what scares you? I mean, I mean, no, not. I was going to say then, apart from what Carpenter said about we're all afraid of the same things, loss of loved ones, abandonment. And there are other ones that he didn't mention that I could. I mean, like the future. We're all kind of scared about the future, aren't we? I mean, because we don't know what's coming, and that's it. That's what I'm trying to say when it comes to horror. It's not knowing, and the future, no one knows what's going to happen. I mean, you can be financially secure, you know, and know you're always going to be okay that way. But you don't know what else is going to happen in your life. You don't know what's going to happen when you wake up tomorrow morning. You don't know what phone call you're going to get. You don't know what text message you're going to receive. That's the future. So I like to, well, I don't like to, but I think the future is, it's like what Carpenter said about losing loved ones and all that. It's all in the future. So if you round it up, we're all scared of the future. You know, that's true. We are. There's no getting away from that. I think one way, in one in one sense, we're all scared of the unknown, and the unknown lies in the future. Something I want to talk about as well when it comes to horror movies is the payoff. Now, a payoff in a horror scene is normally when somebody is in a slasher movie, is when the kill scene happens, okay? The payoff in a supernatural horror is when we see the ghost. For me, and maybe for a lot of you, that's not the scariest moment in the film. Now, the payoff for me is the build up. And then whatever happens afterwards is, yeah, it's a jump scare and kind of is technically the payoff. But for me, it's what's going to happen. I mean, Jaws, for instance. I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, the payoff in Jaws is like the opening scene, that iconic scene where the young girl is killed by the shark. It's not the attack that's so scary. It's the brilliant underwater shot, and the shark is obviously tasty. Yeah, yeah, I'm making light of it, but that to me is the scariest part of that scene. The payoff is the build-up. And I want to talk about The Conjuring, directed by James Wan, I believe. Yeah, I mean, there's one scene in that. I mean, let's face it. Throughout the first half of The Conjuring, nothing really happens. Not really. It's build-up. But I am more scared by the first 45, 50 minutes of that movie than I am by the last 45, 50 minutes. I don't know the actual running time of The Conjuring. I haven't seen it in a bit. But there's one scene in that film, I'm going to get there, where you got the kids in the bedroom, okay? And it's night, it's dark. And you probably know the scene I'm going to talk about if you've seen The Conjuring. If not, you know, spoiler alert. But it's quite an old film now. Well, it's not old, but, you know. And they see something, these two little girls, I believe. There could be a boy as well, I'm not too sure. But they see something on top of their cabinet. Now remember, it's dark, it's black, it's nighttime, and certain things have already happened in this house that suggest it probably is haunted. And these kids see something on top of their wardrobe or dress, yeah, on top of their cabinet. And the thing is, we're living through their eyes. We're living vicariously through their eyes, and we're seeing what they're seeing, which is basically nothing. It's something. There's something there on top of the wardrobe, cabinet, whatever. There's something there that we're looking at it, we're thinking, what is that? Is that, I can't really make it out. There's a shape, it's a shadow, there's something. Is that an eye? I can't really, boom, and then it leaps off the cabinet towards the kids, and that's the payoff. But the build up to that, for me, is the payoff. For me personally, because when you're in that room and you're watching what the kids are watching, you're living through their eyes, you're seeing what they're seeing, and you can't quite make out what this entity slash ghost thing is on top of the wardrobe. That's the scary part. And when it leaps off the wardrobe, I believe that's what happens, yeah. And it does. It attacks at some, and that's the technical payoff. But the build-up is the payoff for me. I mean, like Halloween. The thing is, Halloween is consistently brilliant, right from the opening credits all the way to the end. And that's why to me it'll always be the best horror movie of all time. My favorite movie of all time, not just horror, because the tension that Carpenter builds in that movie right from the get-go, right from that music, that, in my opinion, the greatest horror soundtrack of all time, the greatest piece of music. I mean, yeah, we got the Tubular Bells from The Exorcist, brilliant. Jaws, the Jaws theme, I've already talked about Jaws. Yeah, for me, it's always going to be Halloween. They're great, they're brilliant, they're iconic, but for me, it's Halloween. But the build-up of tension in that movie, the payoff at the end, as it comes to the last 20, 30 minutes of the film, where people actually start getting murdered on screen, it's almost like a byproduct. I mean, it's good. It's still spooky to this day. Doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't scare me the way it used to, and it probably shouldn't. But the payoff is the murder scenes in Halloween, but the payoff for me is everything that leads up to it. And it's Michael Myers in the daytime, when we see Myers in the daytime, when Laurie's sitting in her classroom and she looks across and he's standing there near the car that he somehow manages to drive all the way to Haddonfield. Pardon me. Yeah, that to me is much more scarier than any of the kill scenes. It's like Bob, when he when Bob gets it. It's really a nice way to put it, I know, but you know what I'm talking about. And when he stabs Bob, it's not so much the kill scene and the jump scare when Bob is like, "Come on out." Michael Myers comes out and up the closet and grabs hold of Bob, lifts him up, defies the laws of physics. We all know this, and stabs Bob. But then we all know what's coming. If you've seen, come on, what happens afterwards? And Michael Myers steps back, tilts his head one way, tilts his head the other, like he's looking at some kind of butterfly collection or whatever. And that's what's scary about that scene. It's not Bob being stabbed. It's what Myers does after it, not before it, because we don't see Myers until Bob opens up the closet or something, and pantry or whatever, and Myers comes leaping out. But what makes that scene iconic is what happens after, and that is the head tilt scene. So guys, like I said, this is just a rambling rant, pointless to maybe, but hopefully you found some enjoyment in it. I've certainly found enjoyment making it and just shooting the breeze with you guys. There was no, it's a pointless video. But I'm gonna shut off and I'm gonna think, maybe I should have mentioned this, maybe I should have mentioned that. I don't use, as you can probably see, any clever editing techniques in my videos. They're very much shoot videos. I mean, they're not live, but they may as well be, because once I hit record, that's it, and that's the way it's always going to be right here at Movie Chat More. So yeah, I mean, comment down below and let me know what you think about what I said today. You may think I'm full of crap. Maybe the future doesn't scare you at all. maybe you were never scared by Jaws, and well, even if you was, it wasn't the beginning scene that scared you. It was when the little boy gets eaten. Was it nearly halfway through the movie, or no? It's not, but not that long into the movie. But you know the scene I'm talking about, where the mum comes back and blames Sheriff Brody, and my son is dead, and yeah, you may think that's the only scary scene in Jaws, or when Robert Shaw dies at the end, and being eaten by the shark. That's the payoff. But for me, technically they are the payoffs. But for me, when it comes to horror movies, it's the suspense that makes me go back and give certain horror movies rewatch value. I mean, how many times have I seen Halloween? Like I said, I'm not scared by it the way I used to be, and like I said, I probably shouldn't be. But no, that's it. Comment down below, guys, and let me know what you think. What scares you? What doesn't scare you? What people may have said to you about a certain movie. They may have said, "Wow, you've got to watch The Shining because it's the scariest movie ever." Jack Nicholson is really terrifying in this film. Everything's scary. The mood, the atmosphere. It's spooky as hell. You've got to watch The Shining. You're like, wow, what a pile of crap that was. You wouldn't be the first. I have spoken to people who don't like The Shining. They don't find it scary at all. I think it's a work of art. I think it's a film that has to be appreciated on its own level. And The Shining is almost in a level all by itself. But I haven't seen The Shining in a long time, and I will be watching it again soon. It's just finding the time. One movie I do want to talk about before I leave. I want to touch on Salem's Lot, because that movie it was made for TV. It was based on a Stephen King novel, which I've never read. I know Stephen King wasn't too keen on the movie version of his novel, but I don't think Stephen King likes any of the movies that make him tremendous amounts of money, but he doesn't like the finished product. I think the only one that he liked was The Shawshank Redemption and maybe The Green Mile. Yeah, definitely The Green Mile, because he was on set, I believe, during the making of that movie. And The Green Mile doesn't stray away too much from the book. If you've ever read the Green Mile novel, you'll know, and seen the movie, you'll know they're very, very similar. There's nothing much, if anything, changes. Salem's Lot he didn't like because the main vampire in his novel is described very much of a gentlemanly vampire. He's got black slick back hair, and he's not described in the novel at all, apparently, like he is depicted in the film, which is like I'm gonna mispronounce this, and you can take the piss if you want. Is it Nosferatu, the vampire? Or is that the guy that used to predict things? No, that was Nostradamus, wasn't it? Yeah, so yeah, I think I've got it right. Nosferatu is the classic vampire from that film many, many, many years ago. And apparently that's what King said they turned my vampire into. But I'm not talking about that vampire anyway. I'm talking about the kids scratching at the windows, the vampire kids scratching at the windows. I mean, my God, that still scares me. Yeah, I must admit. Taking away Halloween, Jaws, and Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all the other films that at one point may have scared me a little bit. Some actually didn't at all. But I still like the films. I still like Freddy. I love Jason Voorhees. Talking about Friday the 13th, what do you think of the new, or not the new, but my new, Friday the 13th t-shirt? Original artwork from the 1980 film, the year I was born, Friday the 13th. There it is. They were warned, they are doomed, and on Friday the 13th, nothing will save them. Classic film. So that's, I was saying something, but like I said, these videos are very shoot, and you could be thinking, thank God, because he was going to go off on another tangent. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate that. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you wish to. Thanks very much, guys. This has been Movie Chat and more. My name is Richard. Take care of yourselves and one another. I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.